Well, welcome to week 21 of Race Country Cottage, our Thai house build. Thanks for joining me, and I must say I appreciate all the viewers and the subscribers to the channel. I've had some interesting and good feedback from people, and thank you very much for that. So in this week's update, the roofing team were back to finish off our gable ends of the roof, the main house roof, which you'll see in the video. The ceiling team arrived this week and started to put the framework in place for the gyprock suspended ceilings around the house. The carport and storage room floor was poured with concrete. And today they've started to do the block work to make the storeroom, which is just adjacent to the carport. We also managed to get the underground electrical cables and internet fiber optic cable placed from the utility pole to the house, all underground. And so hopefully that'll all work when it comes time to connect the house to PEA. It was really raining hard last night, big storms around here, thanks to a big hurricane that's over in Vietnam, extended as far as here. Anyway, thanks for joining me, as I said earlier, and come along for this week's update. Cheers. So week 21, we ended up with all the electricals done last Sunday and completely finished by the electrician. So just a bit of a tour around the rooms of the house. He cleaned up everywhere on the floors, swept up and washed the floors, getting ready for the ceiling team to arrive on Monday to start their work. So happy with the results of the electrical install. All very neat and tidy, and I think it was fairly well done. So from the view on the back deck to Monday morning, and it was the roofing team's turn to show up. They couldn't make it last week because of rain, so they had these pieces to finish off on the gable ends. So Monday morning they were bright and early on site, up the scaffolding, and started on the first gable. Pulled up all the tiles they needed, the edge pieces and the finishing pieces. Here you can see them putting on the dry tech system that they use now. So it's a waterproof membrane, one side sticky, and it gets adhered to the fascia board and to the tiles on the roof. So they've measured and used a tape to mark the roof, and here you can see the black dry tech. And they're ready to start to install the tiles up the side, the edge pieces. So they got the dry tech to the roof on the left and partially on the right. And here they're starting to screw in the edge tile to the fascia board. Last week they had drilled all the holes in the edge pieces to accommodate the screws. And they simply just make their way up the roof, tile after tile. Obviously you can see tiles overlap. So if any rain gets under the tile, it doesn't go anywhere because of the waterproof membrane. It simply flows over and down, so nothing gets inside the house. It's the technology they use pretty widely now in Thailand. And here they're finishing up the edging on the top. And coming up on the right side, they're just finishing off that side with the edge tiles. And then all done, and they put the crowning piece in the center. So that bit looks good, and it was time to move on to the area below the sheer wood in the gable and the tiles below. So same technique. They've put a metal C-channel along the edge, and then they're sticking the Drytech system to the metal and down onto the tiles so that there's no gap. So any rain that gets on the wood will go down on the tile, or if it gets under on the mesh on the Drytech, it just flows down to the tile. And here you can see them installing the edging tiles along the bottom of the sheer wood that then match up with the roof tiles. The grooves of one tile match into the grooves of the other. So all looks very neat and tidy, as you can see here. Better the boys than me up on that roof, on that slope. So that's what was missing, what I've highlighted in black. And this is the end result of finish. So there is four gable ends, and these are pictures of those 4 gable ends, now all completed. The ceiling team will get in there and put soffits, drywall soffits. So we had to talk to AIS about our fiber optics. We wanted to ensure that we had fiber optic connection, and so they came to visit us. We wanted to put it in the underground pipe that supplied power, so they provided us 100 meters of fiber optic cable that we can use, and they'll hook it up later. We also met this week with our builder to review our building schedule, the next steps, because 2 or 3 weeks behind from what was on the schedule, and we also chat about our progress payments. Then it was on to work in the carport. So to finish off the rendering and get ready for the roofing tiles, or the roofing ceiling team, they had to finish the carport. So it had sand in it. It had been 5 or 6 months of rain and sun baked it in, and they've just topped up the sand now to level it out and start to prepare for concreting the area so that it's ready to build the storage room. So here they're just marking out the levels. So it'll be 10 centimeters of concrete on top of the plinth beam that goes around the carport. And so they filled it up, generally leveled it out. We've also stopped to look at the high density conduit that's going to hold the underground power and the fiber optic cable to come from utility pole into the house. Here the boys are digging a trench, and they've dug it out to the utility pole. Here they're just measuring the high density conduit they use that goes underground, and there's something like 30 or 40 meters of this conduit that gets used. So they're just measuring it, taking it out to the pole and to the house, and then they'll just cut off them out. This is the NNY 35 millimeter copper electrical cable that'll run from the utility pole and the PEA power supply into the house. And here the foreman is just hooking it up to the wire puller, and they're feeding it into the high density conduit. So the 2 cables and the fiber optic cable are going down the pipe together, which AIS has indicated is fine. It won't impact any performance of the internet. So the team at the other end of the long line of the pipe are pulling, and these guys are pushing to get everything in. So seemed to go fairly smoothly, without any real dramas, because it's pretty well a straight run. Then it was time to take the loaded conduit with the electrical cables and the fiber optics and get it out to the post, and they've put it up they've tied it up about a meter and a half up the utility pole for later connection with PEA and AIS. And then they bring it into the house underground, and then they start to try and feed it up into the utility room. Here they're pushing and pulling the cables in a pipe that was already installed in the wall. And that's what it looks like on the utility pole, and that's what it looks like in the utility room. So on Thursday of this week, the sealing team arrived on site. Their gyprock and C-line channels had been delivered last week, and they were held up a couple of days before they could arrive. Anyway, they got right to work, started to place the C-line channels at the 2.9 meter mark around the bedrooms and of the house, and also around the lounge, dining, and kitchen. But some of it gets changed later, which I'll explain. So, two of the team were putting the C-line channels. This fellow was putting the wire suspension pieces on the ceiling girders. Initially, we ran around, put them everywhere they need to be. So they're like placed and ready for him to do his work. So then he got up into the ceiling and put them around the rafters and used this pole to twist them, get a good twist so that they are secure to the steel above and hang down below, so they can hook them onto the C-channels later to create the suspended roof to put the gyprock on. Never seen this done before, so I found it quite interesting. The team seemed to work very, very fast. They've been at it for years, so they know what they're doing. This is a hook they used to on the wire to hook the C-channels on. So here they're affixing the cross pieces of channel to the wall channel. And they're suspended by the wires that the other fellow was putting up earlier. So they run horizontally and diagonally as well. So here's just a shot of them putting the C-channel up, the cross piece that sits on the wall piece, so it's nailed into the wall. And the other fella hooks it up to the suspension clips that are supported by the ceiling. So it makes a very, very strong metal infrastructure to screw the gyprock onto, probably starting next week sometime. And that's what it looks like when it's finished and ready for gyprock. That's the lounge room, and the cardboard in the middle is where the air conditioning is going to go. And this is the fellow working on the back porch, putting in all the metal infrastructure. So this is what the house ceilings look like as of Friday afternoon. The team's off over the weekend, and we'll be back on Monday. We also had the air conditioning contractor attend to put in the infrastructure for the cassette air conditioner in the lounge dining room area before the ceilings sealed up. So the contractor and a couple of his helpers came along and welded in some steel beams that would hold the bolt the cassette would be bolted into. So they put the infrastructure all in place. So when they come back after the ceilings are done and the house is just about complete, their infrastructure is ready for them to bolt it into. It makes life easier for them later. And that's what it'll look like where the cardboard is when it's done. We also then decided that we're going to change the height of the ceilings. They were too low. So as you can see, we've raised them in the lounge dining and in the kitchen, as well as the hallway. because the walls are high enough to accommodate it, so why not? Then it was on to preparing the carport and storage room area for concrete. And so the team put their formwork up around the garage and laid down their metal and plastic on the sand and the metal, cut to fit into the area, you can see here, just to provide extra strength to the concrete when it's poured. And I was glad to see that the team had still some rebar chairs left, and went around and raised the metal off the ground so that the concrete can set around and underneath the metal when it's poured. This was Saturday, and the truck arrived, and the boys got busy at work unloading the truck and spreading the concrete around. Looked a fairly wet mixture, as it typically is in Thailand. Just work by hand to move it around, as they always do. And here they're just about got all the concrete emptied from the truck and spread around. Just a small bit left, and they're starting to use the straight edge to level out the concrete. And here it's been all poured and leveled. And now we'll wait for it to set a bit so they can get in and do hand troweling. Just make it nice and smooth. Then it was on Sunday, today, they started the work on the storage room. So here they're starting to measure out for all the block work for the room. They're using the 7.5 QCon blocks. There's a sink at one end, a drain, and a water supply because the water pump sits in there. And here they're just doing some block work. Be finished off next week. Look, thanks for joining me this week, and we'll leave you with that view, and look forward to catching up and explaining and giving an update on week 22. Cheers.